theory that Josh has, and I think it's a good theory that what the Chiefs could do is they bring somebody in to play left tackle for the short term, or they sign somebody to a couple year deal, and have them play left tackle there, and have Niang, and if they draft somebody, battle it out for the right tackle position. If they don't get it, basically move them into right guard. Um, I think that's very, very solid, and it really depends on what the Chiefs do in free agency. But Mark, you recently wrote a story for Arrowhead Reports that I really enjoyed. Obviously, it was about offensive linemen, so of course I enjoyed it. It was looking at offensive linemen in each round. And I think that it's important that we do talk a lot about the first round guys, and rightfully so. We talk a lot about, your Liam Eichenbergs, your Samuel Cosmes, your Elijah Vera Tuckers, your all those guys. But we need to talk about the mid round guys too, because I think the mid round guys are going to be important for filling the depth of this team. Because as I've mentioned on this podcast and many other podcasts, the depth has kind of been shot out of this offensive line when you talk about all these free agency guys that are leaving. And they only have a few guys on contract and on futures contracts as well. They only had three futures offensive linemen: Martinez Rankin, Yasir Durant, and Andrew Wiley, who is a restricted free agent. So who knows if they're going to place the tender or not on him. So I want to look at rounds kind of 3 to 7 here. What guys that we can talk about and kind of keep tabs on as the draft kind of moves along, and pro days are now starting to happen, starting to move about. Guys' stocks are moving up and down. We've seen some good pro days from Samuel Cosme. Creed Humphreys had a good pro day on Friday. And there's been some guys that had bad pro days, but we'll talk about those. And so why don't you get us kicked off with kind of your round three guys to watch? Who are you looking at round three if the Chiefs do have a pick and want to kind of solidify the depth?
Yeah, another thing that happened this past week was we heard that Austin Ryder probably won't be signing
Mm-hmm.
back with the Chiefs. So that's a center position that could open up. I know Nick Allegretti could be a guy that could slide in there at center. But if not, a guy I'm looking at is Josh Myers from Ohio State, a
Oh
center
yeah.
that really played well for Ohio State. They run a lot of shotgun, just like the Chiefs do. And I think he would be a great fit here. If he slips down to the end of the third round, I know some people have him kind of middle third round, so might be a stretch to get him there at the end of the third, but I think he would be a great fit in Kansas City.
I totally agree. And Josh is a big boy. That's a big dude playing center, and I love the big boys. You guys know that, obviously. But sometimes I know we talk about this every time with this Ohio State offensive line because they got a bunch of big guys on there. They just get too far ahead of themselves out in front of their feet, don't move their feet as well. But I'm okay with that because I think Andy Heck would fix that. And I don't expect, especially a third, fourth round guy, not really to start right away. I'm kind of anticipating these guys to be kind of depth pieces, and these are guys that Andy Heck can work with, and I have very strong faith in Andy Heck. I almost said Haith, Frank Haith, faith and Haith, baby. That's a
Nathan Hay.
throwback right there. Holy cow! Um, whoa, that came up on my time hop the other day. Actually, I think I saw I
Oh yeah,
saw a
because
Facebook post.
March Madness and everything coming up. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
must have had
Nathan Hay.
have faith and haste to get knocked out by a 12 seed. All right. Anyway, I'm still bitter about that.
Bad memories.
It is bad memories. But to get past that, in round three, who I have on my list, a couple guys that I'm not really sure. It wouldn't shock me if they weren't there at round three, right? A couple guys that could go in round two, and I wouldn't be surprised. But kind of the way they're projected close to the round three range on the NFL mock draft database big board, consensus big board. Spencer Brown and Brady Christensen. Those are a couple guys that I'm a big fans of, and Spencer Brown's a big dude too. He had a good Senior Bowl. Chiefs like guys who went to the Senior Bowl. That could be a little piece into it. Now, if the Chiefs drafted either of these guys in the second round, also wouldn't be shocked because I think that they're that good of tackles, and they can provide good depth. And I think that Jordan Foote was on in Provo actually talking to the guys up in Utah who cover BYU, and they were saying that they think Brady would be a better guard just because of his reach, and his arms are a little shorter. So I think those are the guys that I like at that round three spot. And obviously when you come to round four, Mark, who do you've got in mind?
Yeah, I have another center in mind when I'm thinking.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why like these center guys come up around three, round four. I know earlier, you're talking about Creed Humphrey and Lando that you guys
Mm-hmm.
love. I know you guys love Lando in your mock draft sometimes.
We do.
But yeah, those would be guys that you probably have to get at maybe the end of the first round or trade back and get them early second round. So I don't necessarily see the Chiefs doing that at the top of the draft this year. But yeah, getting a guy like Trey Hill from Georgia in the fourth round could be a really solid pick, really good in the run game, and also good in the pass game as well. That he was actually interviewed and asked what he thinks a better strength for him, and he said that he thinks a better strength is probably his pass. He didn't use it as
Mm,
much, I guess, in college. He said that he really got forced into like the run game there at Georgia, but
yeah.
he said that he really thinks that his strength is in the pass game. So maybe he's saying that to get a higher draft pick, but you never know. But Trey Hill, I think, would be a great piece. A couple other guys, Alaric Jackson from Iowa. I think he would be a nice piece. Anytime you can get an offensive lineman, I said this, I don't know if it was in one of my articles or maybe it was just on Twitter, but whenever you can get an offensive lineman from Iowa, Ohio State, Wisconsin, those big boys from the Big Ten, that is a solid pick in my opinion,
Yeah.
even if it's just for depth.
I had Alaric Jackson on my list too. Another guy I have on here, Walker Little. He did sit out in the last season for Stanford, and I don't think he played all that much in 2019 either. So I think that really the last time we saw him was 2018. And I know it's kind of worrying some people about him, but he's working with Duke Binnyweather, and I've said on this podcast, if any guy's working with Duke, I'm kind of a fan of him. But
Mm,
there is kind of something when I look at the clips that he posts of them working out. There's just something that's like different between him and then that top edge of guys, that top 50 type of guy on the board. But like I said earlier, Andy Heck can figure that out and he can work with those guys. He's got the size to do it. He's got the frame. So Walker Little, I think, especially in round 4, would be a
oh
good
yeah.
guy. I know people have Walker Little kind of going a little bit higher. Um, but from my point of view, I think as a talent wise, I think Walker Little in 4 is a good pick. And James Hudson too is a guy from Cincinnati, where I was telling you before we hopped on the
Mm,
podcast. That's a guy every time I watched Cincinnati this year, they talked about him. And if you're talking about an offensive lineman, he's doing work.
yeah.
They don't just like mention offensive lineman on every NFL or not NFL, every NCAA broadcast. I mean, if an offensive lineman is getting talked about in good light, that means he's absolutely destroying guys. And I think that he would be a good piece in round 4.